Afternoon. It's Monday, May 25th. You're listening to the Best Lamb Sports Show, coming to you live from the Lonely Tree Media Studios in Ellensburg, Washington. I'm your host, David Lamb, and with me via Skype is my son, Parker.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Today is Wild Card Weekend on our show. We're going to start the 2000s NFL Championship. Four games that are just terrific matchups, and they're hard to decide who's going to win, but we'll get into that. We're going to debate those in just a few minutes. First, this portion of the show is brought to you by The Range in Yakima. The Range is Central Washington's premier indoor shooting facility at 34,000 square feet. The Range is an all-inclusive facility offering firearm training. Hold on a second. Technical difficulty. Sorry about that. Offering firearm training, firearm sales, gunsmithing, custom builds, and Cerakote services all under one roof. At the Range, safety is our number one priority. Go see our friends at the Range, 1701 Garrettson Lane in Yakima, Washington. So,
Oh yeah.
we're going to talk about a bunch of things. We got a lot of stuff to do. We're going to start with something new, sports trivia question that we haven't done before. We're going to see if anybody likes it, and if they don't, and well, that's kind of tough. I decided it's going to be a part of our show. But we're going to introduce the question, and we'll tell you the answer at the end of the show. And if we kind of decide that we all like it, what we're thinking about doing is offering a prize for the first person to tweet us the answer while we're on air. Next week we'll start that. If this one goes over well, we'll see what the response is from this particular trivia question. But if you're ready for the trivia question is sponsored by Stave and Stone Wine Estates in Hood River. The winery at Broken Boulder Vineyard has reopened. Head out there and join them for a relaxing glass on the patio with stunning views of Mount Adams. From Cabernet to Riesling, you can find a bottle to please anyone. If you're not a wine person, they also serve local beers and ciders. The Vineyard Tasting Room is at 3827 Fletcher Drive. To find out more or order wine, staveandstone.com. The phone number is 541-946-3750, or you can email them info@staveandstone.com. Stave and Stone, wines with personality. Trivia question for today. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There have been 4 different NBA players that are not from the United States that have won the NBA MVP award.
Ooh.
Who are they? So that's the question. Feel free to research. I know people are going to. If you're on Twitter, you can tweet us the answer. I have Twitter up right now. I'm watching it. I'm ready. We'll see if there's anybody out there listening that actually is on Twitter. You should also probably be following us. Otherwise, maybe I don't count your answer. Huh? Right?
I think that's a good idea.
That's that's probably a thing we should be doing all the time. So and then of course I just realized I didn't hit my transition, so you didn't, and no one saw my beautiful slide for the trivia question, but it's coming up right now. Um, so I think we're going to talk about some sports. We're going to take a look at the sports headlines first, and then we're going to talk about our 2000s NFL championship that we're going to start wildcard weekend this week. Um, Yesterday, the match, Champions for Charity, played on the Turner
Okay.
Networks down in Florida at Hobe Sound, Florida, at the Medalist Club, which is Tiger Woods' home club. He's a member there. Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning won the 18-hole charity match, one up over Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady. They raised over $19 million for COVID-related charities, and then TBS bumped it to an even $20 million.
Nice.
Tom Brady, after looking mortal for the first 6 holes or so, holed out from the fairway on the 7th for the shot of the day, and he also rolled in a long eagle putt on 11 to give his team their first win of the day in a skins type event. Tiger Woods looked great. He hit fairways, he hit greens. He looked like Tiger of old. Of course, he should. It's his course.
And
Um,
he's relaxed.
and he's relaxed. I mean, and
It doesn't count
they're wearing
really.
shorts, so I figure.
Yeah.
I mean, I play better in shorts than I do in pants. So I mean, uh, and then of course, Peyton Manning was out there telling stories and poking fun and ribbing people, and Tom Brady ripped his pants. And
Very this pants.
and
That's right.
the one thing that will stay with me is the fact that Phil Mickelson kept using the word tasty.
Tasty.
I'm not.
He was getting a lot of love on Twitter.
It
His
really
use of the word
it
tasty.
was a lot of tasty going on. And I was like, okay, well, what, whatever.
Somebody
Um,
get Bill at thesaurus. He needs another word.
yeah, I mean, I mean, it was the first time I heard it, I was like, did he just use tasty? And then after that, I'm like, okay, but now you're overusing it because once was enough. It rained like a son of a gun.
It
At
got
the
delayed a little bit because of the rain.
Yeah, at the beginning and at the end, it rained hard, and I would not have wanted to be out there if I was them, but they soldiered through it, and it was some good golf. It was fun to watch. I liked listening to the pros telling Brady and Manning how to do something or what to look for, or how to read a putt. That was
Yeah.
really interesting from from my perspective.
It just goes to show that even some of the best athletes in the world don't know anything about another sport.
It Peyton Manning looked really good golfing. Tom Brady did not for at least the first 6 holes. I mean, he looked
Yeah,
like
he was a little nervous. He had that pants rip thing going on. It was a lot of
yeah.
work.
It was just he was right, he was left, he was having issues. Peyton Manning had a struggled a little bit on the first hole, like I think most golfers do, but then he was hitting greens and he looked really good. So um, they had to hold on. Of course, at the end there was a late charge by Phil and Tom, but they held on to win the thing. But it doesn't really matter. The winner is all the charities. So
Well, Peyton's
um,
a game manager, so that's what he does. Just get a little lead and he'll work you to the end.
right. So I think it was great. I think it was fun to watch. I think. What do you think? We could use more things like this.
I liked that it was lighthearted. I liked that they were joking, they're having fun. I like that Peyton Manning threw shade at University of Georgia. Um, I like that they were going back and forth to each other. I like that Tom Brady was fake stepping on Peyton Manning's Tennessee Smoky cover, like a driver head cover. I thought that was fun. I thought that they made it fun. It was neat, and I think that yeah, we could use more if it's going to be fun. If they're trying to make it serious, then I don't really care to watch it. I didn't really watch it for the golf anyways. I watched it to watch the people interact with each other.
Yeah,
So yeah, if they're gonna do like that, please do. And get people like this, Peyton versus Manning. Like that was a kind of a rivalry. That's kind of why it was here. And then Phil and Tiger are obviously rivals. So keep bringing in rivals. I want to see McGregor and Mayweather pairing up with two golfers. And I want to see how that
I
goes, or,
I
or have them come do the other sports. Have them play like baseball or like something like that.
I'm afraid that'll get out of hand. But
Probably.
but it's a good. I mean, it would be fun to watch for sure. I think so.
I would like to watch a doubles tennis match: Peyton Manning and I don't know Serena versus Tom Brady and Venus.
Oh God, yeah, that'd be fun.
That would be great.
That would be a
That'd be
great.
good television.
That's a suggestion out there. We're hanging that one out there for whoever's listening. $1 million suggestion for you. So also this weekend, yesterday, the NASCAR Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and again rain. There was rain on that too. Everywhere in the southeast was apparently covered in rain all weekend. But Brad Keselowski won it late after race leader Chase Elliott had to pit under caution with 2 laps left. Keselowski stayed on the track. He held off Jimmy Johnson for the win. Jimmy Johnson, who's retiring at the end of the year, his car was later disqualified during post-race inspections. Um, Something had to do with the alignment was not within tolerance, blah, blah, blah. So he doesn't get the second place finish. Um, During the pace laps at the beginning, a piece of tungsten weight that is used to help the car meet the minimum weight requirements came off Denny Hamlin's car before they even started.
Ooh,
He had to pit before he had even started the race, and they had to fix it. Also, that will be an automatic 4 race suspension for his crew chief, Chris Gabehart.
wow!
Yeah. So these big old,
Drama on the track.
it's a 35-pound piece of tungsten metal that they put in the bumper, and they I don't know how they fix it in there, but they put them inside the bumpers to weigh it down. So kind of like a Pinewood Derby car.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you're used to Pinewood Derby in Cub Scouts, you had to put extra weight in it or make it make weight or cut. So that's what they did, and this piece fell out. And according to the NASCAR rules, if any of those pieces fall out, it's an automatic 4 race suspension for your crew chief. So
right.
not that it's no penalty to the driver, other than he had to go in and fix it. So there's that. But I feel like yeah, it was an interesting race. Like I said, it was wet. There was a lot of things going on. I'm not a huge NASCAR fan. I think I've said that before, but I like watching the end of a race to see what happens because, like I just said, with 2 laps left, you get a caution and then everything changes.
Yeah, so
And
all it takes is a tire going down, and you have to pit.
yeah, and you've watched 300 laps for no reason up to
Right?
that
Could
point.
you could you imagine those diehard Chase Elliott fans are like, "We got this. It's in the bag. What is happening?
his
Where are you going?" And then they see the tire and like, "Oh my god!"
his dad, Bill Elliott, had the same problem. Could not win that race. So there's some kind of a jinx on the Elliott family at Charlotte Motor Speedway. I'm not sure what it is, but anyway. Also, Bundesliga soccer over the weekend. On Saturday, Bayer Leverkusen defeated Borussia Mönchengladbach 3-1. Borussia Dortmund beat Wolfsburg 2-0. Bayern Munich beat Eintracht Frankfurt 5-2, and on Sunday RB Leipzig downed Mainz 5-0. Bayern Munich still on top of the table with 61 points. Dortmund is second with 57, and those two teams play tomorrow in a huge matchup that could decide the league champion with just 7 matches left. You can watch it on FS1 tomorrow at 9:30 a.m.
Oof,
Mainz, yeah,
early.
it's a big, yeah, it's early. Mainz actually pumped in crowd noise, so they were playing the crowd noise like the chanting and the cheering and the
Yeah.
singing over the speakers, so that we actually had a stadium that sounded like people were there.
Yeah, there are a bunch of stadiums that have been accused of doing that. Like, in the United States, like a bunch of football stadiums that are accused of piping in noise and things like that for sporting events. So I don't know how I feel about it. I kind of like just play it in the silence, Take this opportunity to let it be different. It's fine if it's different for a little bit.
Yeah, I
Or soccer players are just so fragile that they can't handle no applause.
wow.
There's nobody
Um,
cheering. I can't play anymore. I can't do this.
I, I I like soccer, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really bother me if there is or isn't a crowd there. If there isn't the crowd noise, I think it's an advantage to you at home if you pump in the crowd noise. So you're used to it. You play in front of it. It sounds like your home crowd. That's got to be an advantage. That's the reason you have a home field advantage. Otherwise, it's just another field. So I
Yeah,
feel
but
like
every field has fans cheering. Like even if
yeah,
you're not playing at your home, like there's people cheering, or if you are playing at home, there's people cheering. Having no noise is an equal disadvantage for both people.
yeah, that's what I'm saying is if you can pump in your own crowd's noise, stuff that happens in your stadium, singing your songs, your fight songs, your
Right.
that's an advantage to you to have that.
Absolutely.
So,
I don't think you should do that.
well,
I
I
think
think
if it's to be natural, it shouldn't happen.
I think everybody should have that opportunity. You should all be able to do it. That's fine. Just that they were the first ones I've seen do it. I
Could
don't.
the other team sideline pull out what's it called, sideline? The other team's bench. Could they pull out like a boom box and play their own sounds?
Probably. I'm not sure what the rules are. I'm not that familiar with the Bundesliga regulations at this point, but
The noise, the audio
right,
regulations.
yeah, I'm sure there are some, but I have no idea what they are. So we'll have to talk about that um, at a later date. So also this week, what's still going on? Korean baseball. That's the one Major League Baseball, if you want to call it that, still going on. And this week, the NC Dinos still lead the league at 14-3, followed by the LG Twins. They're 3 games back at 11-6. Over the past week, the Dinos took 2 out of 3 from Doosan and then 2 out of 3 from Hanwha to maintain their hold on first place. They are clearly the best baseball team in that league. Offensively, when they're on fire, they beat Hanwha 12-5 yesterday. Anyway, they're
Jeez.
they're yeah, they're scoring some runs. They hit home runs. They're not the best hitting team, but they are the best power team in the league, and they have some good pitching. They're by far, from what I've seen, the best baseball team in that organization. So, if I missed your sport, email us at lambsports, lambsports@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at lambsports. Um, we're also streaming on YouTube, but you should already know that by now, and you should be listening. So I shouldn't have to tell you, but tell your friends to go find us on YouTube. Um, also, you can, if you're on Facebook, you just search the Best Lamb Sports Show. You can find us. That's how to get a hold of us. So pretty exciting week. We're getting some more sports. We're talking about maybe golf's supposed to open up back on June 11th. The NBA is still trying to figure it out. We'll talk about them more in a minute. Um, but what we want to do now is we want to have a wild card weekend.
I like that.
We're going to talk about 4 pretty good football games and see what happens. Um, let's just dive right into it, and we're going to start with the AFC um, because I decided it's alphabetical.
It's
Um,
fair.
yeah, I think. And then, so AFC wildcard weekend. Right now, the very first game we're going to talk about is the 2002 Oakland Raiders, who finished 11-5, at the 2006 Indianapolis Colts, who finished 12-4 in 2006. So, without going into too much depth or detail, Parker,
Hmm.
who wins this game? Why do they win this game? And who's the star MVP standout? If you have one, if you don't, no big deal. But who wins this game and why?
Colts game management. Dallas Clark.
Wow, Dallas Clark was not a name I was expecting. Uh,
Hey, Peyton Manning loves tight end red zone threats.
mhm.
Dallas Clark was pretty good at it. He's a better blocker than he was a receiver, but I mean maybe that's what you'd expect.
Yeah, I looked at this uh, I overanalyzed this one probably.
A little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was in deep, and I was sitting here looking at Joseph Adai's number, and I'm looking at
Oh yeah, with his 1,000 rushing yards that year.
right, and I'm looking at Rod Woodson with 8 interceptions, and I'm looking at. I mean, I'm in here. I'm in depth. I'm in Romanowski's, you know, uniform, looking at the line of scrimmage, going, "Oh my gosh, who's coming at me?" I I I'm looking at the Raiders, thinking this is a really good football team.
They got
Rich
a lot of people.
Rich Gannon's the quarterback. They're playing a West Coast style offense, short passes. They threw a lot of passes to a lot of people. Tim Brown, Jerry Rice, um, Jerry Porter, and Charlie Garner. Charlie Garner out of the backfield for the Raiders that year, 962 yards rushing, 941 yards receiving, and 91 catches.
Hmm.
He was a beast. They threw the ball all over the place. But what I finally decided when it came down is there is going to be too much Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne
Yeah, there's
for
2,000 yard rushers on that team, or well, wide receivers on that team.
yeah, for the Raiders to stop it. And Peyton Manning is so good. And like you say, game management, um, at playoff games, that's he was good at it. He's good at it. He's a leader. He's not going to let them lose. It's a pretty even matchup for the most part. But I think you might get a little Dwight Freeney in there and yeah, disrupt just enough to disrupt Rich Gannon enough to make it difficult for their offense to get those short passes and get in a rhythm. So
Yeah, Rich Gannon had a pretty good year.
I went with the Colts too. Plus they had Tony Dungy, who I think was a pretty darn good NFL head coach.
He wasn't bad. Yeah, he's all right.
He's all right.
He's all right. I've seen better coaches.
I mean, So okay, so we both agree. So Indianapolis is going to move on,
Yeah, Indianapolis they'll be fine in this.
and they were the lower seed. They were the 3 seed. So that means they're going to get the 2 seed next
That's
week. We'll,
right.
we'll talk about that here in a minute. We'll go over the matchups in a minute. But the second game, then, we need to talk about for the AFC is the Baltimore Ravens at the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is the 2000 Baltimore Ravens at the 2008 Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a divisional matchup, and man, this is a doozy. I had a really tough time with this. So, who wins this and why?
So I have the Steelers winning this. I have them winning it because of offensive scheme. The Ravens' defense is fantastic. They were especially run dominant. I mean, they could stop anybody's rushing attack. But the Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, man, uh, he didn't have a fantastic year in terms of like per completion percentages. He just had a knack though for keeping them moving in games, and I think that that's going to pay off. And then not to mention they had a couple other fantastic pieces around him, but it's just their defense was good enough. This is more of a clash of defenses than it is an offense versus a defense, but I think because the two defenses are going to be great, which team then has the edge on offense? And I think it's going to be the Steelers. So, and I think it's going to be because of game plan. I think Bruce Arians, who was the offensive coordinator at the time, is going to be scheming his head off. That's what he does to win this game. So,
So, I also have Pittsburgh.
nice.
Um, and I will tell you this: it came down to me that Pittsburgh was playing at home. That
Oh, that's fair.
that's the
I actually didn't even consider home versus
that is the
away.
only reason I'm picking Pittsburgh. That they were playing at home. Not that it has anything to do with anything. I think that the two defenses are evenly matched. You're talking about Ray Lewis and Tony Siragusa and others on the defense for the Ravens, and you're talking about Troy Polamalu and James Harrison, and you're talking about Steelers defense also very very good. I think that they're probably evenly matched, and it'll be hard for their team to score. That being said, the team with the better offense is going to win, like you said, and I feel like that is definitely Ben Roethlisberger, Hines Ward, Willie Parker at running back. I think they'd find a way to win. Um, yeah, it's a nail biter though. I will tell you that
It's not a big win.
I
It's going to be a win though.
I would tell you if either team scored more than 17 points, I would be surprised. Um, it's one of those kind of 17-14
Kind of hope
or
that.
what's that?
So you kind of hope, but I mean, when the Steelers made their run that year, they scored 35, 23, 27. They it's not like they couldn't score, despite the fact that Ben Roethlisberger had like a 17-15 year touchdowns and interceptions. But I mean, like they could still score points.
But they weren't.
And I don't
Y-
know, man.
yes, but they weren't playing against the 2000 Baltimore defense either.
Yeah.
So you got. I mean, I'm looking at the
They only
2000.
gave up on the playoffs. They only gave up 16. They only gave up 23 points in the entire Super Bowl run. The Ravens did that year. So from wild card through Super Bowl, only 23 points. 3 in the wild card, 10 in the divisional, 3 in the conference championship, and 7 in the Super Bowl.
So
That is pretty good.
I'm going to tell you that in 16 regular season games, 11 times they gave up 10 points or less. The Baltimore
Ooh.
defense. Yeah, they gave up. And the funny part about that is I'm sitting here reading these statistics and laughing because they gave up 20 points or more 3 times, right?
They have 4 goose eggs on the year, didn't
Yeah,
they?
yeah, yeah. They had 4 shutouts. They
Jeez.
gave up 20 or more points 3 times and won all 3 of those games.
Hmm.
So it wasn't just the defense. They beat the Jaguars 39-36 in the second week of the season. They beat the Titans 24-23. They beat the Jets 34-20. So they had the ability to win and score some points, but their defense was so good. Yeah, would they give up 23 points in 4 games? That's ridiculous in the playoffs. Just
Yeah,
ridiculous. Um, yeah, I think that Ravens team defense was fantastic, but I think there's just a little bit too much Pittsburgh Steeler, and they're going to move on.
I agree.
Fair? Okay.
Yep.
That would mean that next week when we play our divisional round, we're going to have a matchup as follows. So the number 4 seed Pittsburgh Steelers will be playing on the road at the 2007 New England Patriots, who were unbeaten, 16-0 in the regular season. And then the 3 seed Indianapolis Colts get to play at the 2 seed, who is the 2006 San Diego Chargers, who went 14-2 that year during the regular season. So 2 more really good football games coming at you. We'll see what happens next week. Hopefully we'll have AJ back, so we'll have a third opinion, so we can
Yeah.
really get
In case
heated.
we have a debate, yeah.
Right. Well, so far we're 2 for 2, so let's see what happens as we move forward. So we're going to move forward to the NFC, and the NFC is going to be a little more interesting, I think. Um, First game that we're going to talk about in the NFC is going to be the 2007 New York Giants at the 2006 Chicago Bears.
Whew.
Yeah. So so this one's going to be difficult. I struggled maybe more with this game than any of the other games, even though the Bears are a 3 seed. I know that, but the Giants. I'm gonna let you start. I'm gonna let you
Okay.
start with this. So Giants at Bears. Who wins and why?
I did labor over this. I have the Giants winning. All right.
Hmm.
I have Eli Manning again coming from that Manning heritage. He's a game manager, but more specifically, Brandon Jacobs that year, who was a running back for the Giants, was outstanding. He didn't score a lot, but he ran well and he ran hard. So I just have the Giants taking the edge over the Bears.
So we come to our first disagreement,
Oh
and
no.
and so now and so now we have to figure out how we're gonna break this tie. Because I have the Bears, and I will tell you what this came down to for me. I look the Giants when you look at them on paper were mediocre on offense and they were mediocre on defense.
Sure.
But they found a way to win football games, enough football games to get into the playoffs, and then they won all the football games after that.
Yeah.
They were just good enough. They have Strahan and Tuck on the defensive line. They've got, you know, yeah, they've got Eli Manning. Um, I, I I was struggling with the Giants as an offensive team. Their hero in the Super Bowl, David Tyree. You know how many catches he had in the regular season?
Not very many.
4. 4. He had 4. He had 4 regular season catches in 2007, and he caught that ball on his helmet in the playoffs when they needed it, in the Super Bowl when they needed it. And so what this boiled down to me was I saw 2 kind of mediocre offenses, 2 pretty good defenses. I think the Bears defense is a little better. Brian Urlacher, Um, Armstrong. There was I can't remember all the people I want to name. There,
Charles Tillman was on that team.
yeah, they had a lot of good players on defense. Who this came down to for me is the MVP, the wild card, and that's Devin Hester. Devin Hester ran 4 punts back for touchdowns and 2 kickoffs back for touchdowns that year in 2006. Devin Hester is probably the best kickoff punt returner special teams guy of all time in the NFL. And they had him. And I feel like he would have been the difference, giving them field position, if not scoring.
Hmm.
And I think it came down to special teams for me. And the Bears are playing at home. So they give them just a little nudge. So here's the question: how do we break this tie?
Flip a coin.
Gosh, we could flip a coin, but that seems so unfair, doesn't it not? I mean, but it is an NFL tiebreaker. That's one of those rules you can actually
Hey,
do.
it's right. I
Uh,
mean, if normally you would just flip it and we would do an overtime and we tried to argue something, but then I think you're right. I didn't really I looked at Devin Hester as a team player. I didn't really look at him as a kick returner.
uh,
Because I don't believe that the Giants had a ton of issues with people. That being said, they didn't really deal with Devin Hester all that much. So I could cave and go with you because this game, like I said, was really it was edged out by the Giants anyways.
okay.
So I can move and go with the Bears, seeing that Devin Hester adds a touchdown in this game.
Well, I totally have the Flip a Coin app up from sponsored by Google. If you if you want if you want to flip a coin, we could do that. I'm totally okay with that. I but if you think
Let's just go with the Bears because
okay,
because I'm close enough to agreeing anyways. I think I will save the coin for when I just will not cave.
we're,
That'll happen at some point.
it
I'll have
might
a point where I'm like, no.
it might be the next game. I don't know. Let's see.
Right.
So that being said, we would go to the other NFC wildcard game, which would pit the 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 2004 Philadelphia Eagles. Another pretty good football game. Lots of stars, lots of recognizable names. Who wins it and why?
I wrestled with this one quite a bit. I just had trouble with it. I could not get a grip on who I thought was going to be the real X factor for which team.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, I went with the Eagles, and I thought Donovan McNabb was going to be the guy, and he was gonna do something miraculous like he had a tendency to do from time to time, and he was gonna put him over the top late in the game. Again, another edged out one.
Okay, well, I agree with you.
All
Uh,
right.
and almost exactly what you just said. Donovan McNabb was the wild card because he can run and throw.
Yeah.
Dynamic quarterbacks, as we've seen recently, are the reason why teams win. And I think he creates just enough problems. You also have Terrell Owens.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good wide receiver to have out there. And then the defense for the Eagles was pretty good too. This is a good football team. I think the Eagles. No offense against Tampa Bay, Tampa, but Tampa's starting quarterback is Brad Johnson. But they have Keyshawn Johnson also.
That's right.
So
I got some
I
names.
mean he's not throwing to nobody. But this is a team with Warren Sapp and Simeon Rice. This is a team that can get after you at quarterback. But I think the fact that Donovan McNabb is so mobile, it would make it hard for Tampa to get a hold of him.
This was
And
Mike Allstott's team. It was the return of the
yeah,
fullback.
Mike Allstott. That was like the only team that had a fullback. There's, at that time, they're the only team running with a fullback since the Niners did it in the '80s. Um,
Right.
and then they John Lynch is free safety for this
Right.
Buccaneers team too. They had a good defense. They were loaded with players. I just think their Donovan McNabb causes too much trouble. He'd be too hard to pin down. It would make it really difficult for him.
I agree. I agree.
Wow, we rolled through that in what is
A
unofficially
record time.
record time, which is good though because that gives us time to bring up whatever it is we want to bring up for the rest of the show. We have a few things that we want to talk about, but first, let's talk about Boss Kitty hand-dyed yarns. Go to bosskittyshop.com for yarns, notions, Boss Kitty merchandise. You can pick up a bosskittyshop.com gift card. They're still having their lockdown savings special. Use the code Wash Your Hands at checkout to receive free domestic shipping on orders of $50 or more. Boss Kitty, yarn so boss you'll knit your pants. So now we're free, and oh, let me just say the second round matchup. I didn't say what it was for the NFC, did I? So
I don't think you did.
I
No.
didn't. I don't think I did because we got winners. So now that we now that we've moved teams along, the Bears, who were the 3 seed, are going to be playing at the 2 seed. It's the 2009 New Orleans Saints at 13-3, and then the 4 seed, now the Philadelphia Eagles, will travel to St. Louis to play the 2001 St. Louis Rams,
Mm.
who are 14-2 and one of those editions of the greatest show on turf. Um, those two games are going to be to me, way more difficult than the AFC games. Just at first glance.
Yes. Right off the bat, I'm not liking having to do that research.
That one might require a lot more research and a lot more planning. I don't know. I think I felt like I was over. It's so hard to compare these teams from these time. I know they're within the same 10 years, but some of these teams had the same players on them. Rod Woodson is on
Yeah.
two of these teams, and you look at him and you go, I don't really know. You know, Warren Sapp is on two of these teams, for that matter. It's really hard to compare players and teams when they aren't playing the exact same teams. You're going to play, the 2000 Baltimore Ravens played the Steelers, just not the 2008 Steelers. And I don't know for sure that Pittsburgh's offense is good enough to beat Baltimore's defense. I just feel like it is. You know what I mean?
That's what I. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I felt about it. It's just like I don't believe it. I mean, it could go either way, really. A turnover here, turnover there. That sort of thing. Who has the lead going into the last 5 minutes? Does the other team have to rush down the field? Like, there's so much at stake. But you're right. It's a feeling. You're like,
And
yeah, I think that Rosberg can get it done.
and just so you know, had you said no, the 2007 Giants would have won. I probably would have caved too and said, all right, fine.
Okay.
I was not completely sold on the Bears. Like I said, it came down to a special teams guy. That's the reason why they win. And these games were, I think Philadelphia handles Tampa Bay pretty easily.
Yeah.
I think that I just feel like Indianapolis was going to win comfortably over Oakland. But
Yeah. I
those
didn't feel like it was gonna be a problem.
but those other two games, I'm picking Pittsburgh because they're playing at home. I'm picking the Bears because Devin Hester might run a kickback for a touchdown. He might. I mean, I don't know.
A whole lot of might in that.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't know what's going on. Um, Other things that have happened. The Last Dance concluded this last weekend.
Yeah, it did.
Episodes 9 and 10. So let me ask you a question. I know you watched the whole thing.
Yep.
Your opinion of Michael Jordan, has it changed at all after watching the show?
Yes, it is. So you always knew Michael Jordan was not always pleasant, but you didn't quite realize how unpleasant he was. That being said, that's just within the realm of competition. Outside of that, he seemed like a very nice person. He was nice to all of his fans. Every time they showed him interacting with fans, he always took his time and things like that. He just seemed like nice to everybody, unless he was competing against you or with you. Like, then he was not as cool. So yeah, it kind of split it. There are two Michael Jordans in my eyes. There's the non-competitive Michael Jordan and the competitive one. I don't really care to know the competitive one that much, but that's why he's the greatest of all time. He's not everybody's friend. He's the greatest of all time because he's an asshole. Wait, I don't know if that's allowed to say that on here.
We just did.
I just did, YouTube.
Yeah,
Deal with it.
it's okay.
Uh,
I told him it wasn't for kids.
Oh,
Just
did you click that box?
just in case, just in case one of us got carried away and it was you. So
I've reined in a couple almost oopses, but that was the first one that just came out. There's no better way to explain him. Like, that's how he was on the court. He was that guy, and like, he's the guy that if he was not a superstar and he walked into your rec center, nobody would want to play with him. Like, dude, this guy takes it way too seriously. We don't care that much.
so now what I'd like to see ESPN do, now that you've done this show, The Last Dance, and you've got this footage, and you talked to Michael Jordan for 20 years or however long it was, and you've got all this his point of view to everything. Can you come back and do one from the point of view of Steve Kerr or Scottie Pippen, so that I can actually hear somebody else's take on the same set of events? Because I'm
I
not.
felt like they got everyone else's
You're
take
you're
pretty well.
you're getting a.
Like when he punched Steve Kerr, they showed both of them talking about it, and their
Right.
reflections were more or less the same of the situation. Of
Sure.
course, Michael was like, Michael was less apologetic because in this instance he was actually reactionary. Like
Mm.
he wasn't the aggressor. I mean, he was the aggressor in the way he was talking, but he didn't hit Steve Kerr first. This is the
Well,
whole who shot first, Han or Greedo. It was definitely Steve Kerr who shot first, and Michael Jordan just shot harder. So, but they had like the same take on it. They were both like, "Yeah, it was an unfortunate situation, but it helped make us closer together." That's it.
yeah, I just feel like if it was dedicated to another player, this whole thing was, you can call it about the Bulls. It's about Michael Jordan. And
Well, I mean, he controlled the release of the footage.
right. So, and well, most of it's of him. So, I mean, I
And yeah,
get it.
he owns all that stuff, so nothing
Yeah.
was going to be in there that he didn't approve.
Right. So that would be my question. If one of these other players made one, Dennis Rodman, how different would it be? How different would the account of the events be? Because it would be
I think if
based on
Dennis
them.
Rodman made one, it'd have to be on HBO. It
Yeah,
wouldn't be allowed to be on
that's a
ESPN.
different rating probably. But
You're right. You're right. It would be a completely different
yeah,
perspective. I felt like they
it was a
captured a lot of people's perspectives, but it was like anytime they captured somebody's perspective, they would talk to Scotty, they'd talk to Dennis, they'd talk to Steve, and then they'd end it by letting you hear what Michael Jordan had to say. And that was just kind of the last thing that always stuck in your head was Michael's thoughts on it.
yeah. I have a little less respect for Michael Jordan the person now than I did when this started. As a player, he's fantastic. Right? There's no doubt about it. And I'm not going to tell you he's the greatest of all time because I am not the person that is going to be able to make that distinction. I'll leave that to other people because I'll tell you why. Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Okay, why is he not the greatest of all time? Why why is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Why is
Because they didn't change the course of basketball. They didn't retire in their primes. They didn't they didn't dictate the movements of an organization and things like that. They Michael Jordan owned the Bulls and an entire city for as long as he really wanted to. And in the middle of being able to do that, he just stopped because he didn't want to play without his coach. I mean, that's more loyalty than anybody else will ever show. But I mean, back in the day, you got traded and you didn't really have a choice. There was no players running the NBA. So some of those guys who played in the 70s and stuff, they were a lot more hosed in that regard. But yeah, in the 80s is when it started to turn. I just think that he was bigger than the sport. And before that, there were guys that were as big as the sport, but not bigger than it.
I feel like yeah, I don't okay. He didn't, to me, do anything to change the way basketball is played. He just was good at it, better than anybody else that was playing at the time, right?
Yeah.
So if you put him in today's group of players,
Yeah.
is he still better than everyone else?
If you put MJ in his prime, like 93 MJ,
Sure, put him in.
if you
Put it.
if you put him in right now, I
Yeah,
I think he's definitely top five in the league.
and
Like I have a hard time seeing how he would struggle with the rules that cater to allowing offense.
correct. But is he? I mean, is he going to match up with LeBron James? Is he going to, be able to guard Steph Curry? He's not
They
probably not going to be
really they
asked to, but
really did not cover well. So like what you're talking about are dynamic player
well,
types.
that's what I'm talking about
LeBron is well,
in general.
Michael Jordan was big, but he wasn't overly strong. He wasn't overly fast. He wasn't any of those things too much. LeBron James is huge.
Yep.
He's a massive individual who's super strong and he can shoot the three. He's a freak. Steph Curry is a tiny guy. I'm not tiny, he's still 6'3" or whatever. He's a small guy, but he's lightning fast. They have dynamic character qualities. Michael Jordan's dynamic character quality was that he was good at basketball, which is weird to say. It's a weird way to phrase that because it's not a physical attribute, but that's just what he was. Despite not having anything remarkable in terms of physical characteristics, he was still better than everybody else. It's like when you see those, 7'5" guys dunking, you're like, well, yeah, you should dunk. And it's like that's a remarkable characteristic, but the play isn't remarkable.
Hmm.
Like you should do that because you're that big. Michael Jordan had no business playing that well because he had no remarkable characteristics. He was not that fast. He was not that big. He was not that strong. He was just smart. He was smarter than everybody else. And then you paired him with Phil, and it was over the top.
And as a side note, Phil Jackson still has the squarest shoulders I've ever seen.
What the heck is with that guy's shape?
Right? He is a T. He
That always reminded me. I always thought Michael Jackson, or not Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan was bigger than he was because he wore those suits that were big and had the big arm things.
yeah.
And then you see him in a game, you're like, oh, he's kind of tiny. Like
Eh,
he's thin.
right, he's thin.
He's
Yeah.
he's thin. Yeah, he's lean. He's basketball lean.
Right.
But like you don't realize that because every time you see him in the suits, he looks so much bigger.
Yeah.
I never picked that up. Like every time I saw him on the suit, I was like, oh yeah, he's got to be like 230 or so. And then you'd see him out of the suit, you're like 180.
I, I don't know. I okay. I Michael Jordan would be in my top 5 all-time basketball players, but I'm not going to just say who's number 1 because I have no idea. I'm just telling you that I think that there are other players who changed basketball, who changed, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played in what, 4 decades?
Yeah,
And he was, well, it wasn't 4. Yeah, he started. Anyway, so he
barely in 4 decades,
almost
but yeah,
almost I think. Anyway, he played, but he was so good. Well, it was only 3 decades. I think he retired in 90 something or 90. He would have been. He started in 70. Anyway, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was so good, NBA's all-time leading scorer, right?
yeah.
And at the center position, not from a guy like LeBron or MJ or any of those guys. And I think we talked about LeBron James, you and I, about how he got, he's breaking records of people, but he has a head start because he started out of high school, and he's also at an advantage because of his size and the rules, the way the rule changes are now, and they allow you to go to the free throw line if someone looks at you funny. Um, so the spread floor because of the threat of the three makes it easier to go to the basket, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so he's the beneficiary of all that. And so when he's going to set records, I'm not saying he's not a great basketball player. What I'm saying is he's got all these advantages going for him that other players in the past did not have. So when you sit down to compare these kind of players, you're comparing one guy who played under this set of rules in this situation versus another guy who was probably getting hacked and hammered and not getting those foul calls and still managed to score points and still
Right.
managed to be dominant. So that's where I say I'm not good at comparing one generation's player
Across.
versus another.
Yeah.
I can just tell you that Jordan was probably the best player in the late 80s, early 90s without a doubt. I would tell you that. That's
Right.
that's given. But he was not necessarily the best player I've ever seen play basketball. And it would depend on when you saw them play basketball, you know.
I would say the most remarkable player I've ever seen play basketball is Steph Curry.
He
In that what he's doing is remarkable.
right.
The way he does it. It isn't so much that he's scoring points, other people score points. It's how he's scoring points from the distance that he's shooting and consistently making. That's what makes it remarkable. But that's the difference between all these other guys and Michael Jordan is that Michael Jordan wasn't shooting 40-foot three-pointers.
Right.
He was getting layups and he
Yeah.
was getting jumpers, but he was making them all the time and he made them when they mattered more than anybody else.
Yeah, and he had a team that recognized that he needed the ball in his hands all the time.
Yeah. And he
Um,
wasn't really asked to play defense. Like when you talk about like could Michael Jordan guard, LeBron James, like, well, they through that whole series, they never really talked about his defense. They talked about his intensity, but they
right.
never really talked about his defense, like, him matching up against other people because that's not what he was asked to do. It was
No,
barely what he was asked to do.
that's
He was a pest on defense, but that's it.
that's something Scottie Pippen did and Dennis Rodman did.
Right.
They played
Other
defense.
guys on the team did
Yeah,
that. Steve Kerr got a lot of steals.
yeah. Um, so that being said, the documentary, the next series that's coming out is about Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
I am too. I think to me, there's already controversy built in.
Oh yeah.
And you get to hear it right out of Lance's mouth, so you get to know how he feels about it and how it's going. It'll be an interesting thing to watch and to hear his version account of what happened. Um, your mother and I were talking
Hmm.
earlier. We talking about Lance Armstrong, and your mom labeled him as a cheater, and
A little bit.
I said, "Yeah, that's true." I said, "But the question I have in relative terms is how many of the other people he was racing against were also cheaters? Was it prevalent so that everyone was doing it? Was he at the forefront, and then someone who was number two decided, oh, I'm going to start cheating to try and catch up to Lance Armstrong. So then he said, whoa, well, if you're going to cheat, I'm going to cheat. I don't know how it all went down, so I'm interested to see how he got into what he got into. Um, it doesn't it doesn't matter to me if you're using performance enhancing drugs. The Tour de France is probably the hardest thing to win. Just in general, I you still have to pedal the bike for however many
Yeah.
miles a day uphill. Uh, I don't even like riding the bike down the street. You know what I mean? On a flat surface. He's going through the
Yeah.
Pyrenees. Um, it just to me that it seems like it doesn't matter if you allowed everyone to have a performance enhancing drugs, then there is no advantage, right?
Yeah.
So
I was at the Tosh.0 thing. He's like, I deserve the best athlete that money can buy.
uh,
As a fan, like he said, pump those suckers full of drugs. I want to watch a game where people are jumping 30 feet in the air.
right, yeah, I I feel I feel like just make it even. I mean, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter as long as you're not using spring-loaded shoes. As long as it's just you doing it, great. So I don't know. I feel like that would be fun. It would be interesting to see. And I'm not for the use of the performance enhancing drugs. If it's illegal, it's illegal. But if you just made it legal, then what difference does it make? Everyone's on them, and now the playing field's level again. So to me,
I'm willing to bet that for every one person that gets caught, there are 20 to 25 people that don't.
that's probably fair. And I think
Everyone's probably doing it.
you see it in a lot of sports. I think what they're concerned about is if they went and legalized things now, all of the records that you had in sports, say like track and field, would be gone. It would all of a sudden jump to this incredible next level, right?
Yeah.
Think about a high jumper who jumps, you know, 7.5 feet, 8 feet in the air to get over a bar. That is mind-boggling to me that you could jump that high in the air and get your whole body, over an 8 foot high bar.
Yeah.
I mean that I've got an 8 foot high fence in the back here of my house.
You walk outside and you look at it, you go,
Yeah,
nope.
there's no way. There's no way. There's no way any part of me is going over that wall, um, especially in the flop method. Anyway, um, and then after Lance Armstrong, apparently there's going to be a Tom Brady 9-part series. We're going to talk about every one of his trips to the Super Bowl.
Ooh, that's kind of neat.
Um,
I kind of like that. I mean, I'm a little sick of the Brady ESPN thing, but I'll
well,
watch it.
they love him, so
Big fans. That Chris Collinsworth, man, he loves him.
I feel like I won't be watching the Tom Brady one, um, just because it it's too recent. There's no reason to rehash it. We just went through it. I mean, he just got done doing it. It's not like the
Well, yeah,
last.
you gotta think about the people that are watching. Like, they're not necessarily targeting you. They're gonna be
Sure,
targeting a younger generation, trying to get them interested in it and things like that. So, people who are 18 years old, they
sure,
might not really remember Tom Brady's first Super Bowl.
you're right. But the Last Dance was 22 years ago, right?
Yeah,
98.
that wasn't even that long ago.
22 years is a long time. Still, though, I mean, it's something that you can rehash now because you're looking back on it. Whereas if you're just looking back at 2015 and 2016 Tom Brady, it was just the other day
Yeah, but
in
you're also
sports
looking back at
terms.
2006 Tom Brady.
I suppose. I
You're
suppose.
also gonna look, yeah. So you're also gonna look back, 14 years as much as you're gonna look back 5 years. So
He,
it's gonna balance out.
he's also a New England Patriot, and I do not like them.
Yeah,
So
I'm just a little overhearing about the Patriots.
yeah, um, but that's just from being a Dolphins
I
fan.
want to see one on the Lakers. I want to see one on the Showtime Lakers.
That would be fun to watch.
Yeah, I like the basketball ones. I think they could do a Showtime Laker one.
They probably could. They were good enough in the 80s once they got Magic and had all the parts and pieces. Um, they were so good at that point. I mean, yeah, maybe. Um, so what do we know about the NBA? And
Nothing.
and are they?
They're talking.
It seems like last week we talked about all the scenarios, and then all I heard this week was the same things we talked about last week, which is
Like we know.
like playing. We're gonna play in a bubble. We're gonna play in Disney World, and we're still talking about it. And maybe because of the size, there's multiple courts, and there's ESPN, uh, Disney owns ESPN, so it
Yeah, they'd have those rights to broadcast.
right. It would make sense that I get it. It feels weird, and I just don't know how they're gonna bubble this. They keep talking about having a bubble and blah blah blah. And I understand that's just where they're going to keep the players and feed the players. But if you allow everyone to leave the bubble, what's the point of the bubble? Why
Well,
call it that?
the players can't leave the bubble.
Yeah, they can. That's what they're talking about. The players will be allowed to go in and out. Everybody, anybody who's allowed in.
Then they're not going to do it. It doesn't make any sense.
That's
It's mostly just what you're hearing is what they're saying just to get you to hear something. Oh, we're trying to be safe, so we're going to call it a bubble.
right.
But it's not really a bubble. It's more just a staging area.
Right, but they made it sound like it's going to be this secure bubble and we're going to test everyone that goes in and out. Well, great, but if you keep letting them go in and out, eventually you're going to have a positive test.
And then they don't play it. It's that simple.
Right.
And your team plays without you.
I
It's
understand.
not.
So hold on.
It's frustrating, but it's not complicated.
I get it. But what happens when LeBron James tests positive and he
Then your
can't
team
play?
plays without you because there are rules here.
And LeBron won't shut the NBA down?
Not once they reopen to continue the league. He might shut it down. He might have shut it down. If he would have tested positive, I think it would have shut down sooner back then. But if they reopen and then your dumbass test positive, yeah. Yeah, they're going on without you, dude. That sucks.
Yeah.
14 days, you're gonna be in lockdown. Your team's gonna finish out their regular season and start the playoffs without you.
So imagine the team with the best record in the NBA right now, the Milwaukee
Mhm.
Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine Giannis tests positive right off the bat somehow. Or
Dude, that
he
would
gets it.
kill that team.
Yeah, they're done. That's the team with the
Like
best record.
LeBron could test positive, and I think the Lakers would still be okay for a while. Giannis test positive, and they're
Yeah,
toast.
it's over. It just seems to me like such a big risk to take when you could just.
Not.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's all about the money. I know it's all about somebody wanting to be, they got to broadcast X amount of games and they want the revenue and they want. I get it, but it to me it seems like a big risk to take with your players. If an NBA player and they're all in pretty good shape, let's admit, but there's got to be somebody there who has some asthma or who has a condition, a heart condition or something,
Absolutely.
and if they get it and die, what then? Are we still okay with the fact? Oh well, it was just one death. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal, but
I don't think any of them are viewing it that way. I don't think any of them are thinking, oh, it's okay to sacrifice one person. I think that they're saying we want to play basketball. The players want to play basketball. The players union is screaming about wanting to finish this season. So that's the players. It's the voice of the players. And if they don't care, you're going to do what you can do to start it and try and do delicately. Not to mention, I think this is when we realized they owe people stuff. They owe games to their broadcasters.
Yeah, they do.
And things like that. At this point, you realize, yeah, it's about money, but also it's about you didn't realize before how much the NBA was indebted to other people to make their season run. And those people are going to come calling if you have the opportunity to start, and you don't.
I feel like if something bad were to happen like that, and that the NBA would somehow be liable for that, and it's going to be a big deal. Now, they're going to make everybody
You'll
sign a waiver.
You'll sign a waiver. There's no way. I will guarantee you the players will get the option. You can either come back and we can play it. We're going to do it this way, or you don't have to. You can opt out. You're not going to get paid for the rest of the year for whatever the remaining of the contract for the single year is because you're not playing in all the games by choice, but you don't have to. It's your call. I guarantee they're going to have people do that. I guarantee not many people are going to sit.
I don't know. It feels like a bad idea to have something that. I mean, I get it, and you can see the seismic change around here. I'm looking at it in our town when I go out to the grocery store. It used to be, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, about 80 to 90% of the people at the grocery store were wearing masks.
Yeah,
It's down to about 20% right now here.
That's about right.
Here in Ellensburg, and it hasn't. The conditions haven't gone anywhere. We were in the same state we were 3 weeks ago. It's just that the talk is, and everyone hears that, oh, we're reopening. Well, that hasn't exactly happened yet, and yet they're just ignoring, things. You're doing it for other people. You're not doing it for you. The fact that you're wearing a mask.
That's not America. That doesn't matter. Everyone keeps saying that like that's something that America acknowledges as a reality, that you're doing something for other people. No, you do it for yourself. I'm wearing a mask so I don't get sick. That's how it works. And if you think of it the other way, you're just going to frustrate yourself and you're going to be upset with other people. Think of it the way they think about it and then work around it. Walk farther away from people and things like that because they're being selfish. Everyone's being selfish because they always have been. It's just emphasized now. When somebody's being selfish right now, it's even more exacerbated because they look stupid. To me, anyways. Yeah, yeah, personal opinion.
Well, I don't know. I just have a hard time with it. I'm gonna always kind of feel like y- y- until someone comes out and says, "Hey, if you get it, we can fix it." Then you're still at risk of passing it along to other people, not just your immediate family, but other people who might have a condition, and then it's a
Yeah.
it causes a lot more problems. And I feel like it's not a necessary risk for sports to take to get there. I love sports. I love to watch it. I want it back on, but I don't want to put other people at risk just to watch a sport. That's kind of how I feel. But I don't know. I don't know
But
how to
also
justify it.
you don't have to do it. You don't have to do anything. This has very little to do with especially if it happens in Disney World down in Florida. This has very little to do with you, your world, the people you're going to interact with. And yeah, we don't want anybody to get hurt, but if people are going to make stupid decisions. And so you kind of want to harness and direct their stupid decisions into a slightly better one is what's going to end up happening. And that's why every place is reopening when they probably should stay shut down for a little while longer. It's because people are going to be stupid here soon. So you gotta corral the stupid into a slightly less stupid tier.
that's,
That's
that's,
all it is. That's all America is just moving stupid from super stupid to less stupid. Just back and forth. It's like, all right, you guys are being dumb here, be a little less dumb. We'll control this. It's I see people all the time right now throwing fits about having to wear masks. The same people who, I think there's a meme going around about people trying to shut down bakeries because they won't make them cakes and things like that. Like people won't service like LGBTQ. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the other letters. I mean, yeah,
right.
whatever the other ones. They won't service them because of their beliefs. But now when stores are trying to make people wear masks, they're like, you can't make me do that. And it's like, we own the store. It's like the same thing that you wanted, right? Do you want
Yeah.
stores' rights or no? We're so good, but that's because people are stupid and they don't really care. They're not really thinking it through. Wow, this is way off topic of
Yeah,
sports.
and we're not talking about our viewers who are not stupid. We're talking about
No, I
our
mean I'm not
listeners.
saying if you
Not
if you don't
everyone.
want to wear a mask,
As a,
whatever. And if you have illnesses or your family has illnesses, you guys should be doing things to protect yourselves.
I am always reminded every time we talk about things like this of a line from Men in Black,
Which is
where where Tommy Lee Jones um, and Will Smith are talking, and Will Smith says that why don't we just tell people that there's aliens out there? And he said that it would be chaos. And Will Smith goes, people are smart, and he goes, no, a person is smart, but people are dumb, panicky animals.
it's true.
And it's
We don't have
true.
any. We didn't have any toilet paper for stores for weeks to prove that.
Yeah, you can get a person. One person is smart. This person might be smart. But when you get a group as a whole together, it becomes this mob pack thing where when one person does something, should I be doing that? Is
Yeah,
immediately how people start reacting. They start panicking like they're not doing the right thing. Well, how come he's got 10 things of toilet paper in his bag? Well, maybe I need to do that, right?
that's right.
And they panic, and boom, it's gone. And that's the reason why I can't get elbow macaroni. Anyway, um,
That's why the reason why it's all just gluten macaroni left.
right?
Go figure. When the apocalypse came, nobody touched the gluten crap.
The gluten-free one, the
Dude,
gluten-free.
you walk down to the
Yeah.
Safeway here in downtown Portland, and you go over to the pasta aisle, and all the spaghetti is gone, the rotini is gone, everything's gone except for gluten-free rotini,
Yeah.
gluten-free spaghetti. That bottom row is full,
Oh yeah,
and no one
I
cares.
was living it up in the organic section over there at Fred Meyer. There's all kinds of stuff in there. Um, so so that brings us to the end of the show, and we are going to answer the trivia question right now. The trivia question that was brought to you by Stone Wine Estates and Hood River. Do you have an answer? Remember the question, which
It
is
was there were four or five,
there are
four.
four players in NBA history that are not from the U.S. that have won the MVP award. Who are they?
I can know two,
Okay.
and I think I know a third.
Well, who have you got?
I got Steve Nash
That is correct.
and Dirk.
And Dirk Nowitzki. That's correct. Steve Nash won it back-to-back years, 04, 05, 05, 06 with the Phoenix Suns. So
Yeah,
he's a two-time winner. And then Dirk Nowitzki won it in 06, 07 with the Dallas Mavericks. That's
right.
correct. And you think maybe you got a third one?
The third one that I think I didn't know if he won MVP because it was before my time.
Oh,
But yeah, but I swear I've seen it pop up somewhere along the lines of research about one thing or another. Did Hakeem win one?
Hakeem Olajuwon in 93, 94.
Was he so he wasn't from America?
He's from Nigeria.
See, that's what was killing me is I didn't know if he was from America or not.
And
But the name, I was like, okay, is this guy? Did he? I don't know. I just kind of thought I don't. Someone that's my, but that's all I can think of.
so that brings us. There's one left.
There's one left. Who is it? More recent or older?
Yeah, yeah. So you should have this one. This one should be right on the top of your head. But
It's not coming to me.
but I'll give it to you. So Giannis
Oh crap!
Antetokounmpo, last year's winner, is
Jeez Louise.
maybe from Greece.
Jeez
So
Louise. How did I miss that one?
yeah, right. It's just right there in
It
front of you.
just
It
happened.
was biting you right in the face, and you just
I,
yeah.
I I wasn't even thinking. I couldn't think about it at all. I was like, I have no clue who the other person would be, and I barely got the Hakeem one because I thought he was from America.
Yeah, so that was yeah, and I get that. So they were so since before that, the NBA had been handing out an MVP award since 55 or 56. I think that was the first year. Bob Pettit was like the first winner who played for St. Louis. Um, anyway, they've been handing it out for what 65 years.
Oh, it's been a day or two.
Yeah, and so you've had 5 times somebody has won it that it's not American. 4 times or 4 different players. So because Steve Nash won twice, um, that's
Oh,
not a great
Steve Nash
average,
did
but
it twice. That's right.
he won twice. So you have, and I think that has to do a lot with the influx. The foreign players didn't really start coming in until the 80s. You really didn't see foreign players in the NBA until the mid to late 80s. That's when you started seeing, players like Tony Kukoc. You started seeing players like Drazen Petrovic, Vlade
Oh,
Divac. You started
these
seeing
all sound like bad guys from Rocky.
they are they were all in yeah, and Rocky Four, and then but they all started coming into the NBA about the same time, and they that started the influx, and now you see a lot more foreign-born players in the NBA than you did back in the day. And it's just amazing that um, somebody like Giannis didn't come along a lot sooner. He is so dominant a player, so big and so strong, and does everything. But I guess when you're born in Greece, you're probably not thinking about being an NBA player, just in general. I mean, that's probably not the first thing on your mind. I would imagine.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's there, but it's not the first thing on my mind.
Not unless you grow up and all of a sudden you realize you're tall and can play basketball. Um, but Steve Nash, he's Canadian, so it almost doesn't count as foreign. Um, so,
Eh,
I mean, it's free trade agreement, right? So,
it's
anyway,
right.
so that is pretty much it for the show. Any final thoughts from you?
Yeah.
Oh,
One final thought is that if you have the opportunity to buy applesauce in these squeeze containers, it's fantastic.
oh yeah. You
Yeah.
did you
It's
just?
an irrelevant thought, but I've been thinking about it nonstop since I had one yesterday.
I was just gonna say, did you just figure that out?
I just yesterday somebody gave me one and I was like, what is this? And you crack off the top and it's like a Capri Sun but applesauce and it was fantastic.
Yeah, they are fantastic. I mean, yeah. I mean, I've been eating them for quite a while. Chelsea was the one who actually, your sister, who
Oh
actually
yeah, I remember she
she
used to do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's the first one I ever saw, and I was like, huh, that's a good idea. And they're handy. You can take them wherever, and that lid is you can screw it back on if you don't want to eat all the applesauce that's in there all at once. They're fantastic. And so again, we went to food somehow or other. I don't know how that happens, but it happens every time we're on the air. So next week is the divisional playoffs, and I'm just writing everything down right now to make sure that I have it all set. The next week's matchups: 2008 Pittsburgh Steelers, who just beat the Baltimore Ravens. They're going to be playing at New England, the number one seed. The
Right.
2006 Indianapolis Colts. This will be a good one. The 2006 Indianapolis Colts are playing at the 2006 San Diego Chargers. So we got teams from the same year playing each other. That should be easier to compare, you would think. Um, the 2004 Philadelphia Eagles will be playing at the 2001 St. Louis Rams, and the 2006 Chicago Bears will play at the 2009 New Orleans Saints. So next week we get to talk about Kurt Warner, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. Um, it's going to be quarterbacks galore. It's going to be exciting. But we still have somehow have to talk about Rex Grossman. So I don't know how that works into that conversation. But he's in there. So looking forward to that.
Right.
We'll talk about more updates. We'll see if the NBA comes up with anything concrete, gives us an actual date to start. We're getting close to the PGA Tour on June 11th. We're getting close to Formula One starting again. There's going to be a couple more NASCAR races. We'll give you the sports update from the soccer, from the racing, and from any other sport that we can find. What was the worst thing you watched this week that was sports related?
Well, the kids are still outside skateboarding, so that's pretty wild. But I would honestly say the match.
Yeah, well,
In terms of the actual sport itself, it was a sideshow.
okay, that's
It
fair.
was
That's fair. I watched cornhole championships on TV, and
That's the worst thing you watched. That's incredible.
what's the word? It's not sport. I don't want to say that because my arm gets tired doing it, and there's some walking. Um, but it's not really a sport. I mean, is it?
I mean,
It
is it? I think it is.
it
I would call it
if you
a
call
sport.
the sports, then you have to call cornhole a sport because at least there's physical activity. Um, I don't know. I feel like it's not, in true definition, it's not a sport more than it is an activity that you play when you're camping or at a tailgate. But now that there's a league and a championship, it becomes a sport. There's a trophy, right? Uniform.
Right.
It's got to be a sport now. Uh,
Oh, that's one of the things we were going to talk about a while ago is what defines a sport because we were talking about esports.
you know what? We're going to talk about it next week.
I like that.
We'll have time. We're going to talk about what is and or isn't a sport, and get anybody else's take if they want to chime in on what it is. So you can always tweet us at Lamb Sports on Twitter. You can email us lambsports@gmail.com. We're on Facebook. Just search the Best Lamb Sports Show. And of course, every week we come to you on YouTube now, live. And again, just search for the Best Lamb Sports Show. You'll find it. We will tweet out show times, but probably next Sunday is my anticipation. Next Sunday.
That seems about right. Yeah, I'm
Next
moving on Saturday, so Sunday I should be available.
Yeah, next Sunday in the evening, probably somewhere in the 5 6 o'clock range. That's usually when we try to come on because that way
Yeah.
the weekend sports are wrapped up and we can give you a good update of what happened.
Right.
So anyway, so from Lonely Tree Media Studios in Ellensburg, this has been the Best Lamb